from Wadix also. We're both not in Dominica. All right. So this morning we are, as I said, we're going to be speaking about entrepreneurship, and you are the founder of Dominica Young Entrepreneurship Club. So this is why we have you in studio today. But before we begin, do you mind giving our listeners just a little background as to who is Mandisa?
Okay, Mandisa. um, I have a background in social work. Maybe some people know me as a Calypsonian. I delve a little bit in Calypso for a few years with a famous song, Sutiwe. I also dabble in a little music writing and creation and so on. Um, but my professional in my professional work, I have a background in social work. Uh, I have worked with many nonprofit organizations and government agencies, both in Dominica and abroad. So I have uh, worked as an advocate for domestic violence, victims of domestic violence. Um, on my return home from my studies, I worked as a guidance counselor at the Portsmouth Secondary School, and I also worked as a social welfare officer for a number of years. And I've also engaged in youth projects island wide. And I've also facilitated island wide workshops with local government and CREED as a conflict resolution trainer. So, yes, this is some of the work that I've done as a social worker in Dominica.
Okay. Okay. All right. So thank you for that. Very often our guest wants a little background to make sure we have the right person in studio. So you're definitely qualified, if not overqualified. All right. So some of the areas we're going to talk about today, it's not the norm. Normally, when people speak about entrepreneurship, they speak just about being creative and maybe how to get your stuff sold, your product sold. But today, we are going to talk about conflict resolution in the workplace. And I don't think I've heard anyone dive into that before. So I was grateful when you said you wanted to discuss such.
Yes, yes. I am a trained community mediator. And like I said, sorry. Yeah, like I said, I have embarked on, um, I am a consultant as well. With Global Empowerment Services, and I conduct trainings in conflict resolution, leadership, networking skills, and uh, so with my capacity as a conflict resolution trainer, yeah, I wanted to speak on that subject because as the president and founder of the Dominica Young Entrepreneurs Club, that is one of the packages that we offer to our members. We offer social support to our members, and that includes training and support in conflict resolution, because that is an area that is very, very common in our everyday life. I always say conflict is very common in our lives. I'm a mom, I'm a daughter, I'm a wife, I'm a sister. Because of that, conflict is very common in my life, and I would think it's common in people's everyday life. So sometimes we just need to arm ourselves with the skills necessary to be able to get through this phenomenon in our lives, so that we can be more efficient, we can be um, better sisters, better mothers, better wives, better husbands.
Yeah.
so and so yeah, I definitely wanted to talk about that because that is one of the major areas that we provide support to our members of the Dominica Young Entrepreneurs Club.
Okay. So I guess we can dive in. So what are the most common sources of conflict in the workplace?
Right. So, yeah, conflict is common in the workplace, because it's just a normal human, um, something that is human. If we have to work on a project, if I'm working with two other coworkers, I'm working with a team of individuals, and we have to achieve a project, for example, I might have a particular method or way of completing the project. There might be two, three other people on my team who might have a different way of completing the project. We all have the same goals, yes, but our methods may be different. And oftentimes, in situations like that, um, conf- even sometimes individuals may be at the same organization or same institution, and they may have different self-interests. They may have different goals, um, maybe on a project that they're working with, or and of course that can cause conflict in the workplace. When individuals come together in one place to work, we come with different baggage, we come with different personalities, we come with different values. So, of course, conflict can occur in the workplace. And oftentimes, if that is not addressed adequately, and we don't have maybe, proper human resource with skills in managing conflict, that can definitely impede on the productivity in the workplace, because we cannot work alone. We need a team of individuals in order to push an organization forward. And if there is conflict, that will definitely have an effect on work efficiency and productivity on a whole. Conflict can also occur in a workplace because of resources, either lack of resources, lack of time. You will find that conflict will occur if somebody is providing a service or a product at a company, and there's little staff to provide the service. Customers are going to become upset or irate. If there's very limited resources, few products on the shelf, that's going to cause some conflict in the workplace, in even in customer relationships.
Yes,
So
yes.
yeah, so even in customer relationship, conflict occurs. So it's very important for leaders of organization, for example, to uh, to be able to have those skills or outsource those skills to provide support to their staff, even in conflict in customer service.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we've identified that conflict is definitely present in the workplace. So what resolution do you have for that? What strategies of resolution do you have for our listeners?
Yes. So, of course, in conflict, we need a resolution. Um, we need, sometimes conflict is necessary in order to bring change. So, in order for certain issues to be resolved in the workplace or change to happen in the workplace, conflict occurs. How do you get to a resolution will depend on the leadership, the management, the training opportunities there are in that subject to employees,
Mm-hmm.
and also individuals being able to master communication. I always say
Yes.
communication is an art, and individuals also need to be self-aware. And that is something that sometimes we don't take the time to do, to really understand ourselves, our personality, and our conflict styles. There's so many different kinds of conflict styles, and sometimes, you know, in the workplace, you have individuals that could be sort of an we have, like, I know of five conflict styles basically. Like when I do trainings, I like to dive into. There is the accommodator, somebody who's accommodating.
Mm-hmm.
That individual sometimes can be like the sheep in the workplace. They can uh, try to keep the peace at any cost
Yes,
in the
yes.
workplace just to maintain relationships, but oftentimes they don't speak up. They don't speak up. their needs are not met, and that can be a disadvantage. So, we have different personalities, and accommodating personality in the workplace is definitely somebody should be aware of themselves, whether they have that kind of personality. And when issues come up in the workplace, how much do they speak up about it? Are they assertive about it? Are their needs being met? Because if somebody doesn't speak up about their needs being met in the workplace, they can harbor a lot of resentment. That's why you find some individuals just quit their jobs suddenly. You find, sometimes employers wonder why, this person does up and left, and sometimes it's because of that, of reasons like that. We also have an avoidant person.
Yeah.
We have I describe it as the ostrich. An ostrich runs to the hills. They stick their head in the sand. That's the avoidant personality. The person who will walk out of the room, the first person to walk out of a room when conflict occurs, when an argument begins. They will run to the hills. That's the avoidant personality. And oftentimes people like that feel very powerless, and
Mm-hmm.
situations hardly get resolved in the workplace. Although sometimes personalities like that can be beneficial. I always say an avoidant person will never get into a fight. um, they will avoid, a fight at all costs. You would hardly find an avoidant person in a physical fight because they will flee. So you find even individuals who are on drugs or consume a lot of alcohol are individuals who have that kind of avoidance personality. So there are so many things we
Missing
individuals
resolution.
have to explore to determine who they are in a workplace in order for them to get to a resolution.
Okay. So let's just pause for a second. Let me try one an example. So let's say we have two very emotional, outspoken workers, all right, co-workers, and they're going at it. What would you advise the management to do to resolve a conflict with two very emotional, outspoken staff?
Yes, of course. There are individuals that are probably more aggressive than others. We know that, and yeah, sometimes these kind of individuals who are a little more aggressive, a little more outspoken, bring value to an organization. Sometimes, they speak up, they can take the lead. But it's important that a manager recognizes that, and uh, maybe have somebody on the team or a mediator to be able to just a neutral party, for example, maybe to be able to be the go-between between the two individuals in the workplace, and to look at the situation, the issue at hand, and to help resolve it. Because in conflict resolution, often we don't have to look at the person, the individuals, when we're handling conflict. Yes, certain individuals come with certain personalities and so on, and it's very important not to address it at the time. Oh, Miss So and So, she thinks she know everything, or Miss So and So is, you know in conflict resolution, it's important for leaders to not address the person at the time, but to address the issue, and to address the relationship of the two individuals, because that dynamic is also important as to why the conflict is happening. So there are three things: the issue, what is really going on, what started this conflict, why are these two people going at each other and arguing, um, the relationship that they have. What is the relationship dynamic? Is it a supervisor and another coworker, or is it two coworkers on the same level? Is a coworker with a subordinate? The relationships are very important to determine why the conflict is occurring, and the emotions involved. Is somebody angry? Is somebody upset? Is there frustration? Is this conflict occurring because there's disappointment? So identifying the emotion between the disputants is also integral in helping to solve the conflict.
Okay. All right. So before we wrap up this segment, what advice would you give to someone who is new to management? about handling conflicts in the work environment?
So, I mean, somebody who's new to management, um, oftentimes, of course, might be nervous about their new role. Oftentimes, might feel that they need to establish some kind of respect from their team. But managers need to arm themselves with not only management skills, certain management skills that is needed to run an organization, of course. But managers need to be aware that, and to self assess, what is my role in this organization? And we really want to encourage managers to look at the 21st century approach to management, to look at themselves more than just a manager, but a leader.
Yeah.
And a leader is a catalyst for change. A leader is a visionary. And a leader doesn't manage people, but a leader leads people. So a leader is a very big role to have. It's a very big responsibility. And it comes with being an example, building very healthy relationships with your team, looking at the strengths and expertise of every individual member of your team and how to basically reinforce these strengths to work for the betterment of the organization on a whole. So that's what I would advise to leaders. That's the advice I would give.
All right, well said. And we started to speak about leaders, so I guess we can transition into leadership practices for the 21st century. And again, another very interesting way of looking at things, not just leadership, but practices for the 21st century. So, modern leaders' challenges, that's what we're going to enter right now. What are the biggest challenges leaders face in the 21st century? Not just leaders, but in the 21st century, the new age leaders, what are the biggest challenges that they face?
Okay, yes, I have heard that I've heard from business owners and managers some of their own challenges when, managing a team or leading a team or with their staff and so on. And of course, that is going to be a challenge because you're dealing with different people. You have certain requirements. Organizations, of course, have to have certain standards and procedures, rules that benefits the organization so that the organization can grow and move forward and be productive and so on. So of course, being a manager or leader in an organization is a task. And sometimes I've heard managers, talk about maybe tardiness of staff, maybe staff being unmotivated.
Yeah,
You've heard managers say sometimes they have staff members who do not take initiative. Sometimes they feel that they have to always give directions, they have to come up with the ideas to run the organization. But yeah, so that's what I feel is a big challenge for managers and leaders working with probably young people of this generation who are on social media and who are all maybe tech savvy, is all about the tech world. And I think managers need to find out about more innovative ways of running an organization. I remember during COVID time, even educational institutions who had never used Google platforms and Google classrooms and, you know, had to suddenly learn those skills. Even teachers who are accustomed with the traditional teaching methods, the classroom setting, the blackboard setting, had to force themselves to be able to use innovative tools and methods in order to reach their students, in order to reach parents, in order to have staff meeting, in order to have parent teacher meeting, or and that was a challenge. I remember during that time, even for small islands like us. um so when managers are you know taking up their role as an organization, they have to tap into more innovative approaches to reach their staff, more innovative practices. Do we always have to meet in person in order to have a meeting? Can we probably have a meeting via Zoom? Maybe if there are, individuals that maybe not physically. Of course, managers even also have to consider if there are employees at the workplace where their skills could be utilized, but they do not have to be actually at the workplace itself. Remote work is a big thing now. There are organizations that are just interested in the deliverable, getting the task done, having a deadline, completing the task, meeting the deliverable in on a project, and getting the work done. Employers right now have to consider whether or not there are young people in the workplace, or individuals in the workplace that can work better in that way.
Yes.
Sometimes we want people to clock in and clock out. You understand? And
So we can manage.
sometimes, what's that?
Just so we can physically manage, as you said earlier. It's not about managing people,
Yes.
but yes,
Yes, exactly. It's not about managing people. Sometimes managers feel like they have to have this surveillance on their
yes,
workers at all time. How often do they take breaks? How often do they go to the bathroom? And sometimes these are people that are very talented people, who can have a lot of value for the organization, but they probably cannot always work in that kind of setting. You know, where they have to clock in and clock out, and their work efficiency have to be determined by how much hours they put in front of the computer before they take a washroom break.
yes,
So sometimes we managers often make that error. We're in the 21st century, and we definitely need to look at new approaches to leading to bring in an organization and growing an organization. And these are some of the things managers can look at. Looking at innovative practices, looking at zeroing in on the skills and talents of their workers and reinforcing that. And yeah, and I think that will probably help alleviate some of the challenges that employers have. And of course, an employer has to understand that um you know you need a team. You really cannot do it yourself, and if you have to do it yourself, you have to bring everything to the table, right? So
mm-hmm.
why not work with other individuals and employees that can bring a certain element to your company or organization that you don't have.
Yes. So we have seen that being a leader has definitely evolved. Like what was required a few years ago, not even decades ago, just a few years ago before COVID, what was required in a leader can actually, it might be a bit outdated because as you just spoke about all the innovative things, all the new things that are happening in the world. For instance, working from home, or being able to present for at a deadline as opposed to just being at work every day. We have a
Yes,
lot of, especially in the bigger countries, we have a lot of managers who want to see that you completed this particular project or task, and it's as long as you completed it the time they wanted it for, as opposed to how many days you took to complete it. So even if you
correct,
completed, if you did it like in 2 hours, they're fine because they understand that this particular project was needed for the company's success, and you completed it, and that's all they need.
correct.
So I really like that you spoke about that. I like that we spoke about working from home. And so we spoke about the hours and also working from home. Like even today, I'm unable to be in studio. And a few years ago, we would be like, oh, we cannot have the Creole Heartbeat show today. But we've now understood that this is something that can be done. We have the technology, we've had the technology. So you're saying it's important for leaders, not just managers, leaders to understand that it's a modern world and we are moving forward. Okay.
Yes.
With all of this being said, we spoke about some qualities that leaders need to have in the modern day. But how important is it for a leader to have emotional intelligence?
Yeah, of course. That is very important. And I always say, I don't know if emotional intelligence can be taught. Although I am a trainer, and oftentimes when I do trainings, uh, I go for activities where I try to tap into individuals' empathetic, their empathy, you know,
Uh-huh.
and that is important. So, some individuals are naturally emotionally intelligent. Sometimes it's just a gift. Some people can just read emotions and understand people. But sometimes you have to teach people how to be emotionally intelligent and how to practice empathy. And empathy is pretty much just being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoes. And that is really not easy to do. That is not easy to do. And that's just the reality, because if I am managing a project and I have deadlines and I have certain things I want to accomplish, and certain people have their own personal issues and or family emergencies or disaster, natural disasters, or anything that can get in the way of me trying to achieve what I want to achieve. uh, and then I have to understand, I have to be empathetic that somebody living maybe in Soufriere is unable to come to work on a project with me because the road is blocked because stones fell down on the cliff. I have to be empathetic. I have to be able to put myself in this person's shoes and understand that they're unable to be with me or help on that project, or somebody had a death in the family, and they're unable, they have to take time off from work, and their role at the organization is so important, but then we have to understand, right? So there are so many ways that sometimes we have to practice emotional intelligence, practice empathy in the workplace. And it's not easy to do. It's not easy to do at all.
Yes. So emotional intelligence is not taught. I'm just doing a little yeah, the summary. It is not taught. It is something that you need to have. So do you think that's
Yeah. But
something
it
that
can be taught. Yeah, it can be taught, because when I do trainings, I often some of the methods I use is I use a lot of scenarios, everyday scenarios, and I read them out and I ask people what they think about it, what they think happened in that situation, and what emotion they feel comes out of that situation. And it's very interesting when I do these trainings, because so many people have so many perspectives on a scenario. It's really, really
mhm,
interesting, the mindset of people, because sometimes the scenario is stated, and all the information, of course, is not necessarily there in a scenario, but most of the important information is there. But somebody will take it to and think of it in, maybe, like, there's a scenario that I often give about a gentleman that is friends with someone for years. Their family socialize. They have a very good relationship. They've never had any problems, but they do business together. And
uh-huh,
on an occasion, the friend normally supplies, you know, his other friend with goods. So that friend has a store in Roseau, for example, and his friend sends the goods and blankets from the countryside where it's prepared. And he sends the blankets, and when it comes to the store, the blankets have little holes in them, and he cannot use it, and he's calling his friend to find out why there are holes in the blanket, and he cannot get his friend on the phone. So this is an example of a scenario that I use to gauge people's empathy, their thoughts, their emotional intelligence. And oftentimes you hear people say, "Oh, it's especially he not answering the phone." Is especially why he not answering the phone. So he just, the blankets have holes in them, and see what he do, Mister. And that is business. And it's especially Mister doing that. Mister, no, he have the holes in the blanket. He send the blanket with holes, and that is why he not picking up his phone. So you just get an idea of, some mindset of certain people and what people normally expect when somebody is not answering their phone. How sometimes we react when somebody is not answering their phone. But in the scenario, they forget that the two individuals know each other very well. They've never had any problems. Their families know each other. They socialize all the time. Maybe it
Yeah.
was an accident.
Or maybe it
Maybe
happened on its way to Roseau.
Maybe it happened on the way to the store. Maybe he's not answering the phone because something happened to his phone. And when I do, it's very interesting when I do these trainings because maybe there are 20 people in the room, maybe only two people might say, no, maybe the brother does lose his phone, man. Maybe the battery die. But everybody else thinks that this person is not answering their phone because they did it on purpose.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's very important to, always have information. Information is very important. And that's why in conflict resolution, communication is so important. You
Yeah.
know, the information, communication, so integral in resolving problems and conflict.
Yes, I always tell my friends that if the interview process was not like a sit down in like one day sit down, and it was something like what the probation is, a lot of people would not get a job because even you always have the right answers during the interview, but when put in in real life situations, you cannot
Hmm.
pretend. So if
Exactly.
interviews were that, I know jobs would have been so difficult to get because your personality is going to show when the hard time comes.
Right, right.
But yeah,
And that's probably a question employers need to throw in into interviews. Well, how emotionally intelligent are you?
yeah,
Yeah.
I know. So diversity and inclusion. So let me see if I can ask you a two-part question. How important? Uh, okay, no, no. Let me ask you like this: How can leaders promote diversity and inclusion? Firstly, like within their teams, and secondly, what are some best practices for leading a diverse team? So how can
Okay.
you got it? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So, yeah, the first question you ask, how can leaders incorporate diversity and inclusion in the workplace?
Yes.
Yeah. Of course, making it, I guess, putting that in policy could be one way. Put it in
Mm-hmm.
writing, you know, could definitely be one way. Also, considering employing individuals on their team that are different, that might have a different sexual orientation, somebody maybe of a different race. We have a large indigenous community here. Yeah, definitely making sure that there are different individuals on the team can be identified in different groups, basically. That's one way. So putting it in policy and probably employing a diverse group on your team is another way that can show that. What was the second question?
Uh, what the second part? What are some best practices for leading a diverse team?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so leaders also have to be culturally sensitive as well. They have to be educated on different diverse groups, different individuals. So, like I mentioned, yeah, the practices would be probably putting it in policy, hiring certain individuals on their team, and yeah, that's basically it. And educating themselves on different
Yes.
cultures and different people that they have to encounter, because a lot of times we might have personal biases we may not be aware of. Even some of the conversations that sometimes even we may not even want people to know we have conversations like that, because sometimes we
Mm-hmm.
do have personal biases, and we have to gauge that, and we have always have to explore that and educate ourselves. So information is powerful, and sometimes when we educate ourselves and understand different people, different cultures, um, that is definitely a way for us to be able to
To
lead
manage,
teams
yeah.
and to be able to comfortably work with anybody, basically.
Yes, and luckily we are of the same culture. Dominic is just a one strong culture. And even if we do have the indigenous people also, we have the Kalinaga people.
Yes.
I think we are a bit we know their culture. It's part. We're part of them. So
Yes,
and we
we
do not we
are.
do not have many religions, and so I think because I can imagine being a leader at a workplace where there are different religions. Like I mean, like Muslim, Christian.
Yes.
Like that sort of diversity. Not the Pentecostal or Seventh Adventist, but that sort of diversity, and for you to manage everyone and make sure that no one feels like you're trying to exclude them, it's a big
Exactly.
thing. And even
Yeah.
here, where we have to think of maybe the person who's Seventh Adventist may not be able to come to the activity
On a
because it's
Saturday, yeah, the
Saturday.
Sabbath keepers,
But then
yeah.
if you put it on Sunday, people will say like, okay, so what happened? We don't have church on Sunday too. So then what do you do now as a modern
Yes.
day leader? So I
Yes.
mean, this is more of a layman example so that people
Hmm.
can understand what we're talking about.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Another thing that I think a 21st century leader should have is technological integration, right? So, how can
Mhm.
leaders leverage technology to improve their team efficiency and performance? I think we spoke a little bit about that when we were talking.
Yeah, if a manager is leading a team and they personally may not have those skills, it's just important to probably hire somebody who does have those skills and to, train staff and incorporate these practices into the workplace. Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. What about remote leadership? Do you think that's something a 21st century leader needs to have, remote leadership?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that remote leadership will also be important in the 21st century leadership. So of course, managers would be able to be trained to, you know, reach out to people. You know, I always say, for example, in Dominica, we don't even really use our emails much. I notice people don't even
Yes.
respond to emails, and I think that's a culture we need to work on.
I feel like you're coming to get me.
Yeah, I feel that's a culture that we need to work on, because you really cannot lead until people there's a kind of work culture that needs to change, because sometimes, I send quite a bit of correspondence, and some people don't even acknowledge receipt of the email. Sometimes they don't have an answer, but it's not acknowledged, so it's just there. Like, I'm wondering, oh, did this person read the email? And sometimes I would see somebody in person, and they say, yeah, I saw it. I was like, could you respond and just acknowledge that you received the email? But yeah, so yeah, leaders are, there's so many technological tools now. There's email, there's WhatsApp, there's Zoom calls and Google Meets, and there's so many things now. So it's just important for leaders to maneuver that and see how they can reach, still use technology, because we are dealing with young people, and sometimes people are just comfortable in that space.
Yeah.
So it's important to use that tool. And of course, we don't want to disregard traditional forms of leadership at all. We really don't want to disregard that. And let me put that disclaimer. I am not
Mm.
saying that we should remove
Abandon
traditional forms.
traditional.
Because of course,
Yeah.
yeah, there's definitely value in that, in things that, and when I teach conflict resolution, I always say that it's not just written word and the spoken word. When we are communicating non-verbally as well.
Yes.
We are, an individual's body language, body stance, and so on, is also communicating. And sometimes when we have to work with people, we have to do things in person. It cannot always be online and Zoom calls. We have to call a meeting in person sometimes. We have to call somebody in person and handle situations in the traditional way. So
Yeah.
there's always the combined approach that managers need to also consider. A combined approach can be also very effective.
Okay. I really like your response to the remote leadership. When you spoke about the emails, I am so bad at emails. If you want to give me $1 million, if you want to tell me I want $1 million, but I have probability of me losing, if you want it to be great, send me an email. And I
Yes.
don't know why. I don't know why in university we had to use email, so I don't know why. But I guess it's just a cultural thing. If you send me a WhatsApp, I may see it. A text message, yes, but an email. But can you imagine being a leader of a remote group? So everyone's at their home or wherever they're at. It's more about meeting deadlines as opposed to being in the office space. And you are told that you are the manager, the leader of this group. Like, how do you really effectively lead them? And, I always wonder if there are trainings and stuff for that because you kind of tell if Mandisa is drinking all day, you kind of tell, that kind of thing, which is what the traditional would have presented before. You'd be able to manage that to know if the work is of good quality, quote
Yes.
unquote good quality. So how do you train somebody for that? So I like your response though.
Yes.
Sustainable leadership, because even if we're speaking about 21st century leaders, we also have to think as to whether or not that their leadership is sustainable. So
Hmm.
how can leaders ensure that their practices are sustainable and socially responsible?
Yeah, of course. Sustainable leadership. Well, I would think um, it would mean that there has to be a certain kind of work culture that has to be developed at the workplace by the leader. So if there's a particular procedures and ways that a leader is doing something naturally, because I always say if an organization is falling apart, it's trickling down from the top. It's coming from the top. You know, if an organization is doing very, very well, it's coming from the top. Anything that happens at the top trickles down. So if there's a certain work culture that a leader maintains, and of course the others will see it and will follow through, and if it's a good work culture, that's something that can definitely make it sustainable for the organization, a leadership style that can become sustainable. Because sometimes people move on from an organization, they resign, they retire, they move to another organization, so other individuals in that organization can follow suit. So yeah,
Hmm.
that's a way to make it sustainable. And of course leaders have to be responsible. They have to they have to see themselves as a public figure, and behave responsibly in how they they handle things. When they take interviews, what they say, or just represent an organization in the best way possible.
Yes. So we're going to move on to the out of the box symposium. I was told that we had someone calling on the line, and which is one of your speakers. So I hope we can get them through soon, Mr. Technician. Um, but if we're speaking about leaders, new age leaders, and we also said that we're not trying to kick out the traditional ones, but we think about new age leaders, we also have to think about developing future leaders because if we're already at this point in 2024, by 2034, we may have a total different dynamics, but I expect them to be totally different. So, how do we train our young people, those who are in high school, those who are in state college, presently, to be our future leaders?
Yeah, so you're saying how do we train our new generation of young people coming from college and so on to be future leaders?
Those who will be leaders in like 10, 15 years, 10 to 15 years. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so well, with the Dominica Young Entrepreneurs Club, that's one of the things that we do. We provide leadership training, and it's just pretty much sensitizing young people on that. Maybe finding out from them what they think. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's also very important to do that, to find out what the young people are thinking. Probably do surveys, and that's one of the ways. Find out what they think. Because you'd be surprised the kind of ideas young people have. And also, provide maybe trainings for them in leadership,
Definitely.
encourage them, boost their self-esteem, provide an environment for them to be able to grow and to use their skills. And definitely that's a way to nurture young people into being a leader, to definitely utilize their skills, because sometimes we sometimes only look at just um, the academic performance, how to pass a test, But there are a lot of young people that come are just really gifted, come with so many gifts and skills that can where they can contribute to their community, they can contribute to the
Mhm.
country, they can contribute to the world. So it's just being able to nurture that and to
Yeah.
mentor young people. Mentorship is also very important to create leaders among young people. So even if we have other leaders that have, uh, are not in leadership roles anymore, that and they're creating space for these young people. There's, of course, there would be certain things that they could teach young people as well. And mentorship is also very important to nurture the new generation.
And that's exactly why I asked the question so that we can move into the your club. So tell us a little bit about your club, Dominica Young Entrepreneurship Club.
Yes, so this club was established with the objective to support young professionals, uh, to support a young person with a great idea or maybe interested in business or already in business. And also, we want to provide support to youth at risk as well. I worked as a probation officer for a number of years, and I got into contact with a lot of young people who may have gotten into some whom who may have offended, got into some conflict with the law, may have had to go before the magistrate court. Sometimes they come before the magistrate court so often that some of them drop out of school, and so I really want to look at that target audience as well. So young professionals, youth in business, um, uh, and mentorship program is also what we want to look at. We are not only looking at young people. We work with groups that are older, maybe above 35, above 45 years old, that can provide a mentorship to young people because they have experience and they have certain skills as well and values that they can bring to our program to support young people. So our program does include a mentorship program, and so this is the reason why this club was established, to support these groups and to support their ideas, to provide skills training as well to young people and social support as well to
Okay.
them.
All right. So with that being said, the Dominica Young Entrepreneurship Club has an upcoming symposium. Think outside the box. Youth
Yes.
Symposium 2024. So just tell the listening public a little bit about it so that we can know is registration. First of all, tell us about it, then we'll speak about the registration and everything else.
Sure. So this Think Outside the Box Youth Symposium is one of our first endeavors, and it's an opportunity to provide fruitful engagement between stakeholders, mentors, institutions, and young aspiring entrepreneurs. So we're really trying to create that network at the event. Also, we will have very valuable information presented at the event. We have international speakers like Dr. Mary Grogan from Canada. She was a counselor at Ross University for a number of years in Dominica. She is now an author. She's worked most of her life as a coach, and she will be presenting on the topic conflict resolution for workplace efficiency. So you will be
Mhm.
able, so yeah, individuals, attendees will hear more about conflict resolution, about self-awareness at the event. We also have Rihanna Patterson. She's a TEDx speaker. She's also the founder of Dominica Dementia Foundation. And she's also a coach. I think she's also doing a master's in dementia in the UK. She will be presenting on the leadership of the 21st century. And we have Hakaten Boros from Barbados. He's an entrepreneur. He holds multiple heads. I think he sings. He's an award-winning actor. He's a social media influencer, very popular in Barbados. and he
Mm-hmm.
will be presenting on the challenges of entrepreneurship in this new global economy. So he will be presenting on that. So very, very valuable information will be presented at the Think Outside the Box Youth Symposium, and we are encouraging all stakeholders to attend. We're not just encouraging young people; we're encouraging even leaders and managers of corporations. They may not necessarily be an entrepreneur, but they are the directors of corporations, so they know a lot about running a company and a corporation, and they can also um, engage and form a fruitful engagement at the event with other entrepreneurs, with young, provide that mentorship to young people, and to also learn a lot, because we will have a panel of local businessmen and women also. So apart from the keynote speakers, we will have a panel of local businessmen and women, uh, ready to engage, ready to answer questions, ready to to talk about their experiences, their challenges as entrepreneurs in Dominica. We have Mr. Robert Tong, who will be on our panel. We have Sadrach Burton, who's a well-known artist here in Dominica. He will be on our panel. Um, we also have Kalisha Aarons. She's a counselor. She will be talking a bit on mental health awareness. And we have Christiana Paul. She is the founder of We Planet Inc. So she'll be talking a bit about environmental practices and so on. Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned Robert Tong will be speaking about
You
artificial
did?
intelligence in
Oh,
business.
okay. Oh,
And that is a topic I'm sure a lot of businesses and corporations will want to hear about. So we didn't only invite young people, we invited stakeholders, we invited leaders and managers of corporations to attend and to form this network at the event and to really receive valuable information. Mhm.
okay. So is there a registration fee or registration process, a deadline?
There's not a registration fee, but the cost to attend is $200. It covers
Okay.
refreshments, it covers stationery, it covers memorabilia, it covers the training, because we will be giving a certification of participation for the training, and
Mm-hmm.
it covers a month membership to our club. So if you attend, all that is included in the ticket price. So it's an investment. You get a month free membership from us in the month of July. So all the services that we offer to our members, like webinar trainings, consultations, assistance with proposal and business plans, social support, you get that in your ticket cost, included in your ticket in the month of July. So you get a month offer from us. And of course, you get to decide if you want to continue with us onward as a member. But that is included in the ticket cost. If there is a group of individuals, because we know we extending a lot of invitation to groups, we give a discount to a group of 10. So if there's a large group, it could even be a church group, whatever group,
Workplace.
a community group, a work group. As long as you mention that you are from the same organization, you will pay 150.
Mm-hmm.
We had a membership offer, going on for a while. We were encouraging people to be members, and quite a few people decided to be members. So our members get, the cost of the ticket cut in half. So our members, pay half. But that deadline has passed. But we are offering discounts to large groups. So you don't have to pay 150 if you're from a large group, a youth group, a church group, and then you want to come together to attend. The ticket is $150 for you. And you can get the ticket at Kyrie FM Print City downstairs. You can ask for Ayo Deji, or Ayo, just call him Ayo. He has tickets downstairs, and he will help register you. So once you come in to purchase the ticket, he can register you. And we really need those registrations because we want enough time to prepare seating and refreshments and stationery and certificates for everybody. So we really need people to fill out the forms if they're interested, even if they don't have the money yet and they have it till Friday afternoon, the day before the event. That is fine. But if you are interested and you intend to come, just fill out the registration form. You can find it on our Facebook page. Dominica Young Entrepreneurs Club. You will see it there. It has registration. We've put several postings on it. Some of it has registration, some of it has RSVP. So you can find that. And like I said, if you also go to Kyrie FM Prince City and ask for Ayo, he will also assist in registering you, and you can pay for your ticket there.
Okay, so we are running out of time. So any final words?
Yes, I want to mention the date. It's Saturday, June
Yes.
15th. That's next week, Saturday, June 15th from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And it's going to be at the Goodwill Parish Hall. Yeah, I think I mentioned all the keynote speakers and the panel.
Hmm.
We will also have entertainment. We will have entertainment by Miracle J. He's an illusionist. We will, and he's a great performer. We will have a presentation by him. Also, Trilogy will also be helping host our panelists. Trilogy, the artist and calypsonian will also be helping to facilitate our panel discussion as a host. So it's going to be a great event. There's going to be food, there's going to
Uh-huh.
be entertainment, and we really want everybody to get on board and to really take advantage of this amazing opportunity.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much, Mandisa. Today we had Mandisa Ducre sit in studio with us, and she is the founder of the Dominica Young Entrepreneurship Club, and she was speaking all about Think Outside the Box Youth Symposium 2024. You can go register and be a part of it. It's on June 15th. I'm going to have her give her telephone number before we leave, or a contact number, just in case someone cannot get to Carry FM, and we can go from there. Then we can say goodbye. Mandisa?
Yes, yes. Our telephone number, we have two numbers, 225-3176 or
Mm-hmm.
225-6127. So
Okay.
that's 225-3176 or 225-6127.
All right. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And also, all our listeners, have a fantastic weekend. I am your host, Julie Robertson. This was another episode of Creole Heartbeat here on Q95 FM. Have a great weekend and continue to be blessed. Goodbye.
Bye.
Yeah, that, like I'm malad. Prince Prince Maddox, Prince Maddox, Prince Maddox. Pa pou an wete ba moun plen la yon manj a kite la pi. Aprisye sa yo ka fe kon yo apami nou jodi. La te mouve valet.